Hello, my name is Katelynn Fleming. Welcome to the Day of Scholars presentation of my capstone research in Spanish, Disappeared Identity, Psychological Impact of the Appropriation of Children During the Argentine Dirty War. During the Argentine Dirty War from 1976 to 1983, a military junta took power and began a war against subversion in which it attempted to eliminate the political left from the country. According to Nunca Más, the report published by the Truth Commission established after the fall of the dictatorship, during this time period, the junta ordered the disappearance of 10 to 30,000 people with leftist tendencies, of which 3% were pregnant women and 0.5% were babies. Infants that were kidnapped or born in captivity were given to families with military ties in a systematic effort to control the identity and ideology of the next generation of Argentinians. After the fall of the dictatorship, governmental and civil organizations struggled to find and return appropriated children to their biological families. However, the junta had already accomplished its mission. These children had grown up with an identity completely different from what they would have had they lived with their biological families. In his essay on the appropriation of children during the Dirty War, psychoanalyst Armando Kletnicki represents the falsified identity as an irreparable damage on the child. The repressor who misappropriates the parental role provides the conditions in which individuals are constituted. We need to confront the possibility that some effects are irreparable. What Kletnicki is saying is that the dictatorship had accomplished its mission. It is not possible to recreate the identity of the child based on information about their biological identity. For this reason, the children must deal with the contradictions between their two identities, biological and adoptive. The cinematographic industry has represented these psychological effects in various movies, of which I looked at two: La Historia Oficial, or The Official Story, made in 1985, and Cautiva, or Captive, from 2003. Cautiva is about an adolescent girl named Cristina. The Department of Justice proves that she was appropriated and tries to return her to her biological family. However, it's not that simple. Her crisis of identity prevents her easy integration into the family that she should have had. On the other hand, La Historia Oficial presents the perspective of an adoptive mother, Alicia, who finds out that the child she adopted 5 years ago, Gabby, is the child of disappeared parents, or desaparecidos. Her process of finding out the truth and seeing the signals of the identity crisis that Gabby will suffer shows that the consequences of the practice will echo through generations of the Argentine public. Given all that, my thesis is that both of the films present the trauma that appropriation inflicts on a child, directly in the case of Cristina, and by inference for Gabby, as a fragmentation of the self that disappears psychologically the fundamental facts of identity in a continuation of the physical disappearance of the parents. The first obstacle that the children face is the hole in their identity. The most obvious metaphor for this lack is the popular Argentine song that Gabby sings in La Historia Oficial. The lyrics translate to, "In the land of I don't remember, I take 3 little steps and I am lost. Oh, how it frightens me." The song is foreshadowing that Gabby is going to lose all concepts of security because the fundamental truths of her life will be replaced by the uncertainty of a biological origin obscured by fabrications made by her own adoptive family. Cristina also experiences this insecurity, manifested in her disillusionment after discovering that her adoptive family chose a birth date for her that is months from her real one. With the disappearance of the fundamental truths of her life, her identity becomes a shadow, still present but not concrete or trustworthy. To assimilate their biological identity, the girls must obtain post-memory. Miriam Hirsch, expert in Holocaust study, defines post-memory this way. Post-memory describes the relationship of the second generation to powerful, often traumatic experiences that preceded their births, but that were nevertheless transmitted to them so deeply as to seem to constitute memories in their own right. This transmission is necessary to reconstitute the origin and biological identity of the person, but at the same time implies suffering, because in order to connect deeply with post-memory, the girls have to experience the trauma of their parents on some level. This explains why Cristina suffers while seeing the photos and hearing the stories about her biological parents. She is sharing in the trauma of what happened to them. We can infer that Gabby will follow the same process because in the movie, her probable biological grandmother appears, who has photos and stories of her disappeared daughter and son-in-law, which presumably she will eventually share with Gabby, giving her post-memory of her parents. In both movies, the adoptive family collapses. It is not just the appearance of a biological family that causes the collapse. In fact, Gabby does not even meet her biological family during the movie. Instead, it is due to the betrayal that the appropriators committed in falsifying the identity of their daughters. Kletnicki writes, "They sought to negate and replace the child he or she should have been." The tension between the actual identity and the identity that should have been remains, even after a long time of adaptation. For example, Christina prefers that people call her by her adoptive name, instead of Sophia, the name that her biological mother gave her at her birth, and that she just learned after discovering her true identity. On top of the normal difficulty that a child has upon discovering that they were adopted, these girls also have to deal with the fact that their adoptive parents participated in the regime that killed their biological parents. Because of this political polarization between their identities, there will always be tension between them, impeding a comfortable assimilation or reconciliation of the two identities. The fact that their adoptive parents have participated in this abuse of their fundamental human rights to identity do not really repent of the act leaves another psychological scar. The psychological damage on the girls in these movies shows that the legacy of the dictatorship will last through generations of Argentinians. In fact, this effect is still alive today. Last year, 2 more appropriated children, now middle-aged, were discovered and shown their biological heritage, left to try to assimilate their identities themselves. Although the truth is difficult to process, these movies argue that it is better to know it and try to heal than to maintain a comfortable ignorance which preserves the legacy of the dictatorship. These are the sources that I consulted for this project, and thank you very much for your attention.